This is Scoutmaster's tips and tricks for packing and keeping your 10 essentials. The first thing to know when you go to pack your 10 essentials before a trip is if you don't have the list memorized, where can you go to find the list? In your Scout book, right in Chapter 8, Hiking, the very first page is your 10 essentials listed right there. So anytime you want to pack your 10 essentials, every single outing you go on, day hike, overnight camp out, summer camp, you're packing these, that's where you're going to find your list. Now before I jump into the list, I thought we'd talk about why you pack your 10 essentials. The Boy Scout motto is be prepared. Your 10 essentials are so that you are prepared. You're prepared if it gets dark on a hike. You can pull out your headlamp. You're prepared if it's hot, you have water, you have a hat. You're prepared if it gets cold. So you're prepared if you get hungry. The whole point is that you're prepared for all the different things that could happen while you're on a hike, and you can help other people with their needs. I've been on hikes and many adventures with lots of scouts, and all of a sudden it'll be getting dark. I'll whip out my headlamp and they'll go, they won't have one. I'll say, well, where's your headlamp? Oh, it's in my tent. That does no good. Your 10 essentials is in your pack, and it's with you at all times. It's not in your tent, it's not in your duffel bag, it's not in a car somewhere. It's with you so that you're prepared. With that said, let's dive right on into it. The first 10 essential is the pocket knife. Scoutmaster's pocket knife right here. You'll notice it's a single blade, lock blade, fits in my hand really nicely. Now this is just my preference. I like this. Lock blades are safer. So I could whittle with this. I could cut a steak with it if I wanted to. I could baton it and make kindling with it. So this is a wonderful knife. It's a nice, sharp, safe knife. Now if your knife is different, that's totally fine. If you have a multi-tool or something, that's totally fine. What you don't want though is a knife that is much larger or heavier than this. Remember, you have a lot of essentials in there. My original knife, because it was so light, was a very, very small Cub Scout knife, but I replaced it with this because it wasn't very useful. It didn't fit in my hand. It was hard to open and close. So this is a much more useful, safer knife, but pocket knife is your first one. Next on our 10 essential list is
rain gear.
Rain gear. Every Scout is encouraged to get a poncho. A poncho is your rain gear. It goes for about $5. You can get them at Walmart, Amazon, or the Scout Shop. You open this up. It's basically a large sheet of plastic with holes for your head and your arms, and it will keep you dry. If you're out in a storm on a hike, it could keep you from getting hypothermia. It could literally save your life. It also can be used as a windbreaker. Now that said, I actually do not carry one of these myself. I upgraded to something much better. So start with a poncho, and then every year I like to add a little bit to my equipment. This is a waterproof rain jacket. So it's lined, which means it's very comfortable. It's completely waterproof. So I can wear this and I can be in a canoe in a downpour. I'll be completely dry and comfortable. It's also an excellent windbreaker. So if you're on a cold camp out, you might have a cotton hoodie or something, the wind's cutting right through you. This would serve as a rain jacket and protect you.
The next 10 essential is trail food.
Trail food. All right. Now, first of all, what trail food does not mean. It does not mean potato chips. It doesn't mean candy bars. It doesn't mean any of that kind of good comfort junk food that you love to eat, because if you pack it, you'll eat it in the car on the way. What you're looking for is something that will give you a burst of energy if you're out on a hike and you're starting to get hungry. This right here, these fruit and nut bars, they give you a good burst of energy. If I'm feeling light, a little blood sugar or whatever, I can eat one of these and it'll get me back to camp. Trail mix is also very good. Trail food.
The next 10 essential is flashlight.
Now, the very first time I went on a Boy Scout camp out, I literally brought a flashlight. And I said, I will never do that again. Why? Because when we go on campouts, we're often setting up our tents in the middle of the night. We're coming in late, it's dark, so you want to get yourself a headlamp. Now, headlamps are great. Strap them right on your head, turn them on, and you can set up your tent in the dark. You can eat in the dark. Headlamps definitely belong in your 10 essentials. So much better than a flashlight. They're not that expensive. You can get them on Amazon really cheap, or in the Scout shore.
The next 10 essential is extra clothing.
Yes. Now, extra clothing. Even my most experienced Scouts find themselves in a bind because they didn't really pack this essential. The first thing you would do for extra clothing, you want a beanie. A beanie is absolutely essential. If you're hiking, and matter of fact, one time we were on a hike, it was nice and sunny, beautifully warm. All of a sudden the clouds rolled in, the wind picked up, temperature dropped. I just didn't even think about it. I just opened up my bag, popped open my beanie, and I looked at all my other Scouts, and it's like, well, where's your beanie? It's part of your 10 essentials. Extra clothing. Protect your ears, keep them warm. Also, when you're sleeping at night, you want to keep a beanie on.
Any other extra clothes?
Yes. So the other extra clothes that I have is gloves. Most Scouts forget about gloves, but when you're out in the outdoors, the wind is going to chill your hands. The water and the sun's going to chap your hands. This will protect your hands. It'll keep them warm. These are a light neoprene gloves. When we were canoeing, I wore these gloves. It was very comfortable. I had a Scout who didn't bring any gloves. His hands were totally beet red. They were getting chapped and cracked. So these are definitely a lifesaver. When you're talking about extra clothes, you're talking about a beanie and you're talking about gloves. You're also talking about a light jacket. Yeah, and it's okay to bring a cotton hoodie. It's just a fleece jacket is much better. Because if it gets wet, it's still good. It's warm even when it's wet, and it dries quickly. Cotton does never dries. So, because I brought my windbreaker, my layers here for extra clothing, a beanie for my head, I have gloves to keep my hands warm, a fleece jacket, you guys could have a cotton hoodie, and then I've got my windbreaker. But one of us Scouts recently last year went on this camping trip. He had a nice warm cotton hoodie, but the wind just was brutal and it cut right through him and he was shivering because he did not have a windbreaker. So if you don't have a windbreaker packed, you can use your poncho. It'd help a little bit. What's next?
The next essential is first aid kit.
First aid kit. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into our first aid kit. All right, here's my first aid kit. Now, I have a few things that I put in my first aid kit that don't come standard. And so one of them that I highly recommend that every first aid kit should have is Neosporin. You get a cut, anything like that, you're going to want to wash it out with water. You're going to want to put Neosporin on it. And if it's cut, then you're also going to want to put a Band-Aid on it to keep it clean in the outdoors. Another thing that I have in mind that I think is essential is Benadryl cream.
Benadryl helps with your mosquito bites. You put Benadryl cream on a mosquito bite, not only does it go away faster, but it also itches less. It's absolutely necessary.
Exactly. So it will make those bites bearable and go away. The next thing that I have tucked away in my first aid kit is moleskin. I got tired of hearing all the Boy Scout training. We all knew, oh yeah, if you get blisters or to prevent blisters, use moleskin. And then none of us had it. So I went and tracked it down, bought some and added it to my first aid kit. So moleskin.
You put moleskin on when you are starting to get a hot spot or a blister.
Now, there's one thing that I put in my first aid kit. It does not a first aid kit, an item. Some people mistakenly call it one of the 10 essentials, and that's a whistle. Notice it's small, it's light, and it's very loud. This right here belongs in my first aid kit because it's an emergency supply item. If I were to get lost, I could, instead of screaming for help, I could blow SOS on that. It would take very little energy for me to do that. It carries much further than my voice would, and people could track it down and find me. Matter of fact, in my case, I know Morse code, so if somebody else knew Morse code, I could actually communicate that way. So that's my first aid kit.
The next one is sun protection.
Sun protection. All right. Sun protection starts with a good hat. A good hat has a wide brim to protect your face, and it also has one of these tails to protect your neck. Now, I think the hats that I wear are kind of silly looking, so I've been wearing this. I always thought it was a little silly. The thing is, it's 10 degrees cooler. And if it rains, it keeps the rain out of my face too. So I started wearing these, other people started seeing them, and now lots of people start to wear them. These hats are essential. When my son was younger, he got heat exhaustion, and the reason he got heat exhaustion was he wasn't wearing a hat and he wasn't drinking enough water. So we'll get to the water later. So a hat is number one in your sun protection. Next in your sun protection, that a lot of scouts don't think they need, is sunglasses. Now, younger people, their eyes are not as sensitive as older people, so maybe you can say, oh, I don't need one. But you're in the outdoors all day long for multiple days. Your eyes are going to get bloodshot because of the sun damage to them. So you put on some sunglasses like this, and you will be much more comfortable. Also, if you are doing any activities on the water or in snow, these are essential. You can really damage your eyes if you don't have them. Now, the next thing is the thing that most of you probably thought about. Sunscreen. So, the first thing I recommend is this spray-on kind. It's actually pretty light, it lasts a lot, it's easier to share with scouts that forget to bring theirs, so you can do this with your arms and your legs if you're wearing shorts. The next thing you want is you want a liquid sunscreen for your face. Now, I got this big one so you could see it. Don't get a gigantic one like this. It weighs a ton. It's just going to make a mess. You want something smaller. Now, my normal one that I have, the smaller one, I think got used up. But I found this one. It's super tiny. This would be perfect. You want to use this for your ears, your nose. You want to do it for your cheekbones. Anywhere the bone and your skin are very close together, there's not a lot of meat there, you're going to burn. You want to put this on those parts of your body, and you can use the spray for arms and legs.
Trust me, I don't care how tan you are. You probably are going to burn.
Now notice I'm keeping these in a Ziploc bag. I know a particular scout, Jasm actually, who he had sunscreen that spilled out and got all over his 10 essentials and ruined all sorts of things.
They still smell like sunscreen to this day.
So, sun protection, sunscreen, sunglasses, hat.
Okay, the next essential is map and compass.
So tucked away in my first aid kit is my compass. Now, I prefer this kind of compass. You hold it like this. Yeah, that's your direction to travel. You can move your bezel. This is perfect for orienteering. It's even got little lines on there to measure distances on a map. This is a wonderful compass to have. If you haven't got one, I encourage you to get a compass like this at the Scout Shop. They have a very reasonable price. If you have a different kind, that's fine. You don't need to change it, but that's why I prefer this one and recommend it. Next.
The next essential, matches and fire starters.
So tucked away in my first aid kit, I also keep my matches. Now, I used to have, the very first thing I did when I started in Scouts is I went to the Scout store and I bought these waterproof matches. And I kept them for a while and went on a camp out, and then we needed to start a fire. It was getting really cold. The things would not light. I mean, they would not light. So I got rid of them. And I just use wood stick standard matches. I put a handful of them in this little jar, seal it shut, keep it right here. Now, matches is one part of starting a fire. The other thing I do is I keep a little Ziploc bag of dryer lint. So I don't know if many of the bananas may remember our camp out that we had where we built this I taught everyone how to make a fire. We built this beautiful thing and we couldn't even light it. The reason was, it really bothered me. The reason is I figured out it was because the pine needles we were using for fire starters were too damp. So even though everything else was dry and everything looked good, it wouldn't start because it wouldn't get the initial fire starter. So now I keep dryer lint. I encourage you to take a little bit of dryer lint, stick it in a Ziploc bag, you'll be prepared.
The last essential is a water bottle.
I had a senior scout very recently go on a 5-day backpacking trip with this tiny Gatorade bottle. Not the big fat guys, just this tiny I think he had 2 tiny Gatorade bottles. He was dying. He was always out of water. So let's not do that ever again. This is what I want you to do. Every scout should have one of these big water bottles like that. This is my refill jug. Then I keep a second water bottle like this. Now, if you notice, I do something I've never seen anyone else do. I wear it right at my side. To prevent heat exhaustion, you have to wear a hat and you need to be drinking water continuously. Even if it's not hot in the outdoors, it's usually dry and you are losing water constantly. You want to keep sipping water. If you have a camel pack and you're hiking, you can keep sipping water in a camel pack. Otherwise, you don't want to be, oh, I can't reach my water, or here, I have to stop everything. Can you get my water? If you do that, you won't drink it. Keep it handy. So two water bottles, a big one and one that you can drink out of. If it's a backpacking trip, I take a third. I'll have 2 on my pack and 1 at my side.
Next, we are moving on to other essentials that a scout may need outside of the tin.
We call them the 10 essentials. But what you'll find out is you'll see things that you need. Like I already told you how I put a whistle into my med kit. So a whistle is not part of the 10, but it could save our lives.
A mirror will also can be used like a whistle, and you need that.
Exactly. I didn't show you one, but if you did have some kind of reflective device, you could stick it in there as long as it's light. You could do that. Now, one of the bonus items I take is I take a watch.
Just a standard watch, none of the electronic stuff, unless you're also taking a normal watch on top of that, because this watch won't die on you in the middle of the campout. And this watch specifically also lights up so you can see it in the dark.
And it's completely waterproof. So I have something where I can keep track of time because my phone is dead. Another thing that's a great bonus item to have is a mosquito net.
This is necessary for all backpacking trips, for sure.
And it's very, very stylish, as you can see. Now, the mosquito net, it's very light. It costs about $4 at the Scout Shop. It's also very tiny, scrunches down. There's no reason not to keep this in your pack. Most of the time, you will not need one. And all the outings I've ever gone on, there's only been 2 trips that required one. One was our backpacking trip, the 5-day one we took last summer. The mosquitoes were horrible. This was a lifesaver. And then the other one was a summer camp at Circle X that I didn't go on, but my scouts did, and none of them had these, and they got eaten alive. So for $4, scrunch it up, stuff it in your bag, and you'll be covered. What else do we have? Oh, now believe it or not, rope is not one of the 10 essentials. This is parachute cord. It can hold about 300, even though it looks small, about 300 pounds of weight. I've used this for clothesline, for drying out clothes. I've used this to pull bear bags way up into the trees. You can use it for all sorts of things, but it's very light. It could save somebody's life. The next thing I have in here, that's not one of the 10 essentials, but it's very essential, is mountain money or toilet paper. So notice this isn't a full roll. It's a small, guys, waited till it was almost done and squished it down. This toilet paper right here, I was on a hike one time early in my scouting career. We were just doing a little day hike. Someone had to go to the restroom. They couldn't possibly wait. They managed to go off trail and find a place to go to the restroom. But without this, that would have been a really bad encounter.
You should also have some sort of digging utensil, probably a trowel.
Yes, that would be nice. I think one of the scouts did. I don't have one right here, but a plastic trowel that's light is probably a good idea also. The next thing I have in here, we mentioned mosquitoes. I don't take this on every outing, but anytime I think there might be mosquitoes, it's always in my 10 essential bag. Again, if it's not in the 10 essential bag, you don't have it. You go hiking somewhere and it's in your tent, it doesn't matter. This has 2 types. One is a lotion that you put on your arms.
40% DEET.
The other one is a pump spray.
It's 100% DEET.
This you can spray onto your clothes. Just understand that DEET will melt plastic. It will literally melt plastic. So if you have a watch band that's plastic, it'll eat through it. You would never spray that plastic rain jacket of mine. It would eat right through it, believe it or not. What you don't want is the aerosol kind. Never buy the aerosol kind.
It'll literally just melt everything you have.
Yeah, and it makes a big mess. So DEET. And there's one last, actually I got a couple, 2 more little items here. This one is just little glow sticks that was given to me. It's super light. I throw it in my bag. And the reason why is if we're doing a night hike, I could clip it on the back of my bag so you can see where I'm at. Or if I was ever lost, I could clip these things on. It'll make it easier for people to find me in the dark. And the last thing is another thing that I've never seen anyone but myself use, My dad is the one who got me started on these, and that is a handkerchief. Now, a lot of people think, oh, gee, that's really silly. But when you're in the outdoors, it's cold. Your nose is going to run. And what we do when our nose runs is we wipe it on our sleeve, we wipe it on our gloves, and it still runs. If you could pull one of these out of your pocket and simply blow your nose, which is what you would do at home, you'd go get a tissue and blow your nose will stop running for at least 30 minutes to an hour. And then you'll be fine, and you won't be putting snot. So some people go, oh, that's gross. You have like a hanky that you keep, you don't throw away, and you keep blowing your nose on it? Yeah. Which is less gross? That or wiping snot all over your gloves and your sleeves, right? So I always take these when you get home, throw them in the wash, you're good as new. And that is Scoutmaster's tips for the 10 essentials.